had nearly forgotten the crowd that finally set, which was mostly comprised of people that no one wanted to see on a typical school day. And that is true, my friends. No one had the slightest idea why exactly they followed Lisette around persistently, but they labeled themselves as social equals with her.
That is out of line. Suzu comes from an honest family.
Says the one whose family profits from political scandals.
Yeah, your dad doesn't make anything unless he's in the court with dirty politicians.
Wow, Naomi, you sure are pointing... I fucked that up. Well, we'll act like that never happened.
Hey, let's all calm down for a second, alright? I'm sure Anderson needs some time to recuperate. I mean, what just happened? We need to give her some respect.
Just stop. Stop acting like that already, like you feel sorry for me.
What are you talking about?
I'm sure you're happy seeing me like this. You already have everything you've wanted, and now seeing me like this, life couldn't get any better. Bitterness seeped into me, and words started flying out of my mouth without filter. But honestly, I didn't care. I was so consumed by anger that I only saw Lisette in front of me. What exactly am I to you? Just another part of your obstacle course? Is that what I am? I'm sick of it, Lisette. Oh my god, her face. I'm sick of all these charades. I'm sick of you. Gasps rose from the crowd around her, and I was brought back to the school hallway. Even my friends beside me looked at me in surprise. One girl looked like she was going to speak up, but Lisette held her hand up to stop her. There was an emotion on her face that I couldn't quite make out, but I could see a form of pity in her eyes. No, don't you dare pity me. I looked away from her. I didn't want to see that emotion in her eyes when she was talking to me. She didn't even have the right to look at me that way.
I'm sorry. I know your grandfather passing away must have really taken a toll on your emotions.
She stepped towards me and put her hand on my shoulder, giving me a tiny smile as if for old time's sake. But for some reason, I didn't feel comforted at all. Not that I was just angry at her, but the expression on her face when she leaned in close to me contoured into something complex. Something was different about her. I couldn't quite place my finger on it, but something about her had definitely changed.
Well, I'll be going for now. Track meet responsibilities and all of that stuff. See you later.
Something about Lisette made me feel uncomfortable. I wasn't just angry, but also uneasy. What was it? I had never seen her like that before. But I decided to pay no further attention to it. She continued running down the hallway with her gaggle of friends behind her. I refocused my attention to Mrs. Phillips, who was walking down the hall towards me.
Is everything all right, girls?
Nothing we couldn't handle, Mrs. P. Just a bunch of snobs. Suzu, hush! It was nothing, Mrs. Phillips.
I see. Well, Miss Anderson, please accept my condolences for your loss.
Thank you, Mrs. Phillips.
Your grandfather was a good man. He really upheld the philanthropy of his company's policies, and the money that went towards charity, too.
I know. He was amazing. I really looked up to him and want to be good as him as he was. I fucked that up.
Well, I know that you'll be as great as your grandfather.
Hell yeah, she will. She'll be 10 times better than her grandfather.
Would I? Would it really be better than my grandfather? Everyone seemed to have high expectations for me. I wanted to do my best and make my family proud, but to be better than my grandfather? I wasn't sure about that. From outside the school window, I saw a familiar blue car pull up the curve. Undoubtedly, it was my father in the driver's seat. Oh, my ride is here. Well, I guess I'll see you both tomorrow.
Want us to come with you?
Oh no, it's okay, haha. I'll be fine. See you. Hey, Dad.
Hey, honey.
Oh, don't look at me like that. As I got into the car, I noticed my father looked troubled, clenching at his steering wheel and staring straight ahead, as if something was really bothering him.
About what happened yesterday. I'm sorry for yelling at you. Does your cheek still hurt?
Oh, shut up. You're full of bullshit. No, it's nothing to worry about.
I mean it. I shouldn't have laid a finger on you. You know that you're my most precious daughter. You're all that I have.
I hate this guy so much. Oh, Lord Almighty. Yet he couldn't bring himself to say what he could never say to me for such a long time. I always wanted to hear those words to affirm how he really felt, but I guess even now he couldn't say it to me. A father that can't even say I love you to his own daughter or son, is full of bullshit. I swear to God. Nope. I turned my head away to look out the window. There was no point in waiting for something that was never going to come. And like that, he started to drive and the conversation between us ended. I decided to focus my attention on the passing scenery. We were taking the usual route to grandfather's house. It was located within the vicinity of the school district, but it was still pretty far from school and from where our house was. He had always lived alone. He insisted on doing things by himself, even at his age, living in such a large house. I wondered, did he pass away with no one at his side as well? It sounded so lonely and sad. It was strange that he decided on living all alone in his large estate. If anything, he could have lived with us. Though he and my father probably would have given each other the silent treatment the entire time, maybe living alone was preferable to that. I actually hadn't visited him for quite a while. Visits to his house were most frequent when I was a child, and I had grown up long since then. The last time I visited, though, I thought he looked just as he usually was, happy and healthy. But things changed. In the back of my mind, I knew that he would have to leave one day. It wasn't like humans could live forever. So why did my heart feel so heavy? The car ride was mostly spent in silence until he spoke up again.
How was school? Maintaining your grades, I hope.
Oh my God, I hate this dude. I don't like conversation. I don't like talking to him. Yeah, I've been trying my best so far.
Trying? That's not really doing the best you can, is it?
With my father, only some words I said were filtered through his ears. It was difficult to keep a conversation without eventually talking about academics or my future, even if it was something loosely based on it. He always found a way to integrate it whenever we talked.
Anyway, your belongings are in the trunk. There isn't a lot, so I'm sure you can manage bringing them inside the house. After all, you are on the road to being independent now.
Yes, I can manage on my own. The usual silence resumed between us. I really wasn't sure what to say around him, especially when most of the time we didn't share the same opinions. One question did linger in my mind though. If he was going to justify acting so nonchalant of grandfather's funeral, I had the right to at least know why. We're gonna try again, because why the fuck not? Say, Dad, about you and Grandpa.
We are not talking about this.
Well, at least we tried. I feel like we should be, because Grandpa did leave us yesterday, so...
I wouldn't care if he had left even long before that. I do not want to hear it, and that is the end of this conversation.
As always, he managed to shut down any other form of conversation related to him. It was just like what happened last night. I opened my mouth slightly, but I closed it again. It was like talking to a brick wall. Oh God, it wasn't like I could find out anything by somehow arguing my way through it. It's just like talking to my mom. Alright then. I leaned against the car door and stared out the window. I really couldn't think, what would this place be like? I had been to my grandfather's house before, but it was one thing visiting and another thing was actually living there. How would I manage living on my own without training to really care for a house? I knew that naturally the bills would be paid for by my parents, who inherited grandfather's stocks by the corporation, but I had never lived independently before. Thinking about it made me feel like some kind of bird being pushed out of the nest. Though I was technically an adult, I felt unprepared and a bit daunted at the prospect of actually moving into a new place. Most people my age would be ecstatic moving out. After all, it would symbolize some kind of change in their lives, like being on the road to independence. But I felt like I was nothing of the sort. I really hoped I wouldn't let my parents down. I wouldn't want to let grandfather down. What he was saying right now. What would he be saying right now? I gazed up at the passing clouds in the sky. If you're out there, grandfather, how would you be doing? Would there be anything you want to tell me at this moment? And of course, no answer. What was I doing? Searching for an answer in a heaven that would or would not exist? I ducked my head to stare at the blur of trees and cars from the car window. My head was definitely going into the clouds there at the moment. Either way, I found myself being driven off to my new home. The car rolled to a stop and I drifted out of my thoughts.
Here we are. Go on in.
Alright, tell Mom I love her.
Alright.
I love you, Dad. Wow. No, make sure to come and visit us often. No, I'm going to miss you lots. Nothing other than a blank stare. I paused a bit before reaching for the car door handle, waiting for any form of a goodbye, but he didn't speak again. I sighed and exited the door, hearing my dad pop open the trunk. I saw 2 large bags I packed last night that were large enough to carry only the things I needed. I took them out, placed one bag on each shoulder, and closed the trunk. He then drove off, leaving me alone in front of the mansion. I watched the blue car fade into the distance of the road before turning to see my new home. There it is. It's huge. My grandfather gave me this? It's hard to believe. The house was framed by sets of tall gates, and I hesitantly pushed them aside to take in the entire estate. The house still looked like it was when I last visited him. At a glance, it seemed like kind of intimidating with its size, though if I came closer, it was clear that there was more to it than that. The brick walls were framed by shrubbery and lovely flowers, giving it a homey and welcome look. But it contrast, the tall doors in the house gave me a feeling of grandeur. He knew what was waiting for me, but I wouldn't back down at this moment. I took out the key to the front doors and unlocked them. Well, might as well make myself at home. I'll be staying here for quite a while anyways. That's when I saw them. Lying on the floor was a group of men. They all were unconscious, but there was no explanation as to why they were there in the first place. I dropped my bags and as I let the door close on its own behind me.